There are a few comments here. Osiah Kepo, thank you, Doctor and good sister Briana Moore. So much knowledge. I cannot stress enough how this show is exact knowledge that we need. Thank you. Uh, Definitely, Sister Briana Moore is exactly what we need. She got you some healing there. Um, and then there's, let's see, there was, oh, Osiah Kepo also said, can you share a little on what I'm seeing as win all battles mindset? Um, yeah, of course, I'm coming in part from the standpoint of someone who comes out of movements. And so it's part of what it means, but it also applies to the person. So I'd say personally, if you have issues in your life that require you to address them. Be clear about the ones you can win and the ones you can't. And there are some situations where a battle isn't winnable. Don't enter it. Avoid it. It's like a fighter. When you're training a fighter for boxing, Muhammad Ali was being trained, and his trainer knew not to put him in the ring with the heavyweight champion, Sonny Liston, until he was ready, because he was a killer. But he knew when he was ready. And so in life, there are going to be situations that come up that require a head-on assault on your part, meaning you have to do something to change it. Make sure you're putting yourself in a situation where you can win. There are situations that you can't win, then avoid them. But also avoid anybody putting pressure on you. Now, when it comes to collectives, especially, I have rules for winning. The first one is the cause is just. I'm not fighting for anything that's wrong, and I'm going to be up there to fight with people in their interest. If someone's being harmed or whatever, then that, or if it's a situation, the battles I've been in where it's around poverty, fighting for jobs, whatever. So it's got to be just, number one. And two, it's got to be winnable. And that means you have to see the conditions where you can defeat an opponent. And those are real key rules. That applies to any kind of battle. And you can always think you can win and lose, so that happens. But generally, if you're good at it, you can pick those situations where it's winnable. Now, there are situations where you have no choice but to fight. Win, lose, or draw, then you do your best. That's when you're cornered like a cat, fight. But you usually avoid the corners. You put someone else in a corner. Of course, a corner is a deadly place because the person that's in the corner is going to do everything to get out. And so the rule there is give them a way out. Always give them a way out. So when you're fighting and you cornered somebody, give them an exit. The other one is treat your enemies with respect. I'm writing a book of prose on strategy, because strategy is such a subtle art that you just can't write it as chapter 1, chapter 2. No, these are situations, and it's like an art, So one of the rules in strategy in war is always give your opponent an exit. So when you're really kicking his butt, there's a point where he can just retreat. Let him go. Don't have to smash him to the ground. That's I'm suggesting a physical fight. I'm not referring to a physical fight. But if that happens, that's true too. But I'm referring to political things. So there are other rules. But the key one is you have to enter with a winning attitude. We often enter with a defeatist attitude. Oh, we've never won anything. We don't give ourselves credit for the victories we achieve. You know what I mean? Be honest about your defeats if you face any, and be honest about your victories, and don't get all puffed up. My mother would always remind me, treat victory like defeat. Be honest about it and move on. Because if you get too egotistical or egotistical at all, the next battle is the one you're going to lose. And I always enter a battle assuming that this is the one I can lose, and therefore I do everything to win, and then I throw in extra because I may have may have not appropriately assessed the strengths of my enemy. So I'm going to give them a little bit more credit so that in case I've made a wrong assessment, it is on the side of exaggeration or overestimation rather than underestimation. But I try and get it right on. But we're not perfect. So I, give myself a little winning room. The other thing is, don't think that because an opponent is little, and I'm talking about with power, that opponent is weak. Sometimes it's the little one that's the strongest one. Mm-hmm. So don't think that you've got an opponent, oh, it's easy. There's no easy fight. So, but the main point is to put yourself in a winning position in your life. Mm-hmm. So don't do stupid. Avoid stupid. Stupid gets you in trouble, And some of the things that we admire most is stupid. Fat mouthing. I don't do fat mouthing. You might think I do. In battle, I don't do fat mouthing.
What's fat mouthing?
Fat mouthing is where you're out there calling your enemy names. You're labeling your enemy and all this stuff. Some of our groups have done this. We liked it. But guess what? Usually when you're talking these, I'm not going to give the examples because then I'm identifying a group. But when you're going down and talking about a particular enemy and just characterizing them as a no good for nothing dirty dog, then sometimes that is the very thing that will inspire them to come down on your head. That's stupid. Mm-hmm. That's stupid. But I don't do it because the opponent that I'm going to whip today is going to do my bidding tomorrow. And so I want them to have a sweet taste in their mouth when I whip them, because I'm going to whip them with class and I'm going to treat them with respect. Mm-hmm. And you'll see some humility when that victory is achieved. I'm not over there bragging or anything, Mm-hmm. But then when I want something for you, I'm going to get it. It's the nature of victory. It's the nature of winning, Mm-hmm. But it's not to tear down the opponent. And I'm not so much in the king space because I love my enemy. It's just basic rules of respect. World War II would have been prevented had in World War I, the Allies exacted a good peace on the Germans. There may not have been World War II. They brought it on because the way in which they imposed their peace, they had reparations and stuff on the Germans, took land from them, everything else. They couldn't even pay the reparations. America was paying part of the reparations for the Germans before World War II. So that was stupid. And then they went to the other extreme of the Marshall Plan, which was actually smart, and put huge amounts of money into Europe and rebuilt it and rebuilt Japan. Why was that smart? That's a market for you. Mm-hmm. That's also turning your enemy into an ally. Mm-hmm. That was smart. Of course, then they turned their friend into an enemy. The Russians, who saved them, now becomes the boogeyman, the communist that's going to get you. You know what I mean? And it shows how dumb some people in this country can be, that the very people who lost 27 million people in World War II, that knocked off 200 German divisions when the Americans and British and French only knocked off 10. I'm going to give John Wayne credit for winning World War II. I mean, the Americans did. And then you're going to take the people that saved you. Now, they weren't fighting to save you. They were fighting to save themselves. But they defeated the German war machine. And you're going to turn them into enemies. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's so that they could build up a national security state that is bleeding you right now, which the Biden budget is trying to correct a little bit. But what he's doing, look at what he's doing. Right now, 1.9 trillion that he'd like to get through is going to get cut down more. Look at the defense budget. It's over $700 billion a year. So in 3 years of a defense budget, you get something that's useless for making bombs and ships and airplanes and stuff, that doesn't do anything to advance people's lives and doesn't produce that many jobs. It produces a war. It's killing people and it's unjust, and America loses too. The other side. So, so this is being treated as something that's too much when in fact it's too little, because in this country they don't invest in the people.
Mm-hmm.
So all I'd say is, as a person, be a winner, baby. In fact, that was Curtis Mayfield's song.
Yep.
We're a winner.
Yep.
If you win enough, act like it. You know what I mean? And then on the personal level, if you're a father, your job is to protect your family. Of course, sisters too, because that's a joint responsibility, but that's your primary responsibility. So make sure you win on that level. Nobody's, tap dancing on anybody in your family. Right? No? And a good father is prepared for that. And I'd say it ain't too smart to cross a bad black man. That's an average one. Or sister, either one. And some sisters is tougher than some brothers. And these sisters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a whole other thing. Quit being terrorized and quit telling your children, quit instilling fear on the police on them. I know that you mothers have real concern about their sons and daughters, especially their sons being blown away. I know that. And they have good reason for it. But don't instill fear when you're preparing your children to handle that. Mm-hmm. Don't instill fear. Don't. Because people react in irrational ways when they're engaged in fear. And I'm not blaming the parents for this. There's reason for that. Mm-hmm. Aubrey, the way he's tracked down, like a dog, on the sole basis of, if you're black, you're a criminal. Mm-hmm. And if you're white, you're a victim. You know what I mean? So
conditioning.
Conditioning. Don't do that. My mother never did that, by the way. But I don't think, if she had, I don't think it would have had effect, but I don't know, because she didn't. And I don't think it was because she was all that race conscious either. But she didn't. And then I had this one-man army example of my father. But I'm not a family person, meaning I'm not somebody that assessed my family, therefore I work that way. I'm more a world person. So I didn't internalize that consciously, maybe unconsciously. But I think it's very important to not instill fear in the way you teach. Mm-hmm. Teach people how to maneuver, but to maneuver in a way outside of fear.